turn my little mic on. Can everybody hear me? I don't think I really need it in this space, but we are being recorded, so I'll just get you to keep that in mind when you give us your amazing questions later on. Welcome everybody to the second panel discussion for the day. I'm Tanya Drummond from Sharp Tudhope, and we are really, really lucky. We have joined today by three of the top exporters in the Bay. These amazing companies are here to talk to us a little bit about what they do and how they've done it, and also answer your questions. So who have we got? So first of all, we've got Kevin Flint, General Manager of Oasis Engineering, which is a precision engineering exporter, and recognised as with the Excellent in Innovation Award at the Export Awards. Oasis now exports specialised high-pressure control equipment into over 40 countries and is known for embedding innovation and automation into its core processes and procedures. It sounds very technical. We have Larissa from Trimax Mowing, an exporter of premium mowing equipment, named in the Exporter of the Year Awards as the Export Awards as Exporter of the Year. Trimax has apparently tripled its revenue over the past 5 years. That's pretty impressive, and has exported 33,000 mower decks into global markets such as the US and the UK. Last but certainly not least, we've got Sam from Lawview, based here in Tauranga and now in over 16 countries in the world, literally global domination. They were recognised as the Excellent in Innovation Award at the Export Awards last year, and they have exports into 40 countries. So you've got employees in 16 countries and exports into 40 countries. Amazing. We've got some really, really cool people up here today. The way we're going to run this for each of them is they're going to give you a little presentation on what their business is all about. Once they've done that, we're going to open the floor to questions. So these guys have agreed today, under the cone of silence, that is this lecture hall, to bear all, figuratively, and tell you all about what they do well and how they do it. So your nitty-gritty questions, anything that you want to ask them once we've done our presentations, we can do. So first up, we are going to go with Kevin. You've got your... Good?
Hello. Kevin Flint, Managing Director of Oasis Engineering. And these guys are very, very lucky because I'm first presentation. So I'm deliberately going to set a very low bar for the presentations and they can make it better after me. So who are we? We are 32 team members. We're from Birch Avenue, just down the road, and we are a manufacturing company. We're predominantly export, so 2025, 87% of what we produced, we exported to 21 countries. We have exported to 40 overall, but some of those come and go, and countries like Iran we're not allowed to export to anymore. It was a big market back in the day. Of the team, 50%, so half the team are CNC, we're a manufacturing company, and the assembly team. So these are the guys that actually do the work. They're the ones that make the money. And then the rest of us, sales, accounts, admin, and 7 product development engineers, soon to be 8 product development engineers. So 25% of the company are in product development. So we have a big focus on new product development. And I'll come on to why that is moving forward. Very brief history of the company. So Oasis Drinks was a drink company back in the 80s, got bought by Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola shut down the maintenance department, and the original owner, Tom Boyd, bought all the equipment and moved it to Tauranga. So he set up as a jobbing shop. A jobbing shop, for those who don't know, we make anything for anybody, whatever they need. Job to job, basically. But in fizzy drinks, you have the fizz. The fizz is put in with high-pressure valves. So he also made a high-pressure valve for the CNG, compressed natural gas industry, on NGV, which is natural gas vehicles. Our industry is full of acronyms. Everything's an acronym. And for the more mature Gentlemen in the room, you'll remember that CNG vehicles back in the day in New Zealand in the 80s led the world in CNG vehicles. We don't do any now. Gas is pulling back here. But around the world, there are a lot of gas vehicles. It's cleaner, it's cheaper, various reasons for doing it, and we still service those markets. Moving forward, 2003, a guy called Andy Cameron, he used to be operations manager at the Wahi mine up there, went around the world running different mines, came back and he bought the company. So when he bought the company, we were still a jobbing shop, still a small engineering factory, 5-6 people, but we were also the preferred supplier of dairy valves for Fonterra, and we still are today. So anybody here drinks milk and it comes from a Fonterra bottle, it will go through one of our valves. So we do all the valves on the vats for Fonterra. 2007, very important year for Oasis. That's when I started. So I started as operations manager. A little bit of a story there. We were in, my wife and I come over from the UK. We were in Auckland, as we all do when we come over here. Didn't like Auckland. 20 years ago, the traffic was too bad even then. So my wife she's an accountant. She got a job down here, and she said, "You've got to get a job." And I went, "Well, there aren't any in manufacturing." So she said, "There's one for an operations manager." I said, "What the hell do I know about operations?" So she applied for the job, and I got it. That's literally how I turned up. I walked into the factory. It was a bit of a dirty, grimy, old, what you would consider traditional engineering factory back then. I had to lift my trousers so I didn't get grease on my trousers. And I thought, I'll stay here for a year or two until I find something better. And 19 years later, I'm still there. I'm going to come on to why that is. But what we did then, when I joined, my background's product development. I've got a degree in mechanical engineering, master's degree in product development. I've done product development for 15 years in the UK. So Andy Cameron had realised that there was more to this gas valve than just the valve. We made a valve, a check valve, and a nozzle back then. So he took me on to develop the product development market. And we gained ISO 9001. So I wrote the manual for ISO 9001, which is a quality system, the first one. And we started our manufacturing journey. So for those who don't know, lean manufacturing was brought to the Western world in the late 80s. It's a Toyota thing, the TPS, the acronym again, the Toyota production system. Basically, it is the excellence for manufacturing. It's where you aim for. It's got lots of tools in there, and it's what everybody's picked up around the world. So moving on, jumping on 2017. So we are now owned by a German company based in Hamburg. They're called Eleflex. Today they have 900 staff worldwide, 500,000 turnover. So why would they buy this small little company in New Zealand? Well, Eleflex make a product that you guys, everybody in this room uses probably every week or two. And what they make is the nozzles that you put petrol in your car with. So when you fill your car with petrol or diesel, if you look at the nozzle or you look at the hose, that is an Eleflex nozzle and an Eleflex hose. They have all the European market, Australia, New Zealand, lots of other countries, etc., etc. And I will come on to why they purchased us a bit later. But at that time, we started our Industry 4 journey. For those who don't know what Industry 4 is, they're saying we're going through the fourth industrial revolution. The first was in the mid-1800s, from where I come from, actually. So it's the old mills of the northwest of England. And then Industry 2 was Henry Ford and the old Model T Ford. Industry 3 is robotics and automation. And Industry 4 now is all about information. So they call it the Internet of Things. And now, of course, we're going into AI. And I'd never heard of that, and I came back to New Zealand after visiting them in 2017 and contacted Callahan and NZTE. And as far as I could tell, nobody had heard about it in New Zealand back then as well. I'm sure they had, but now the government had picked it up and they're running with it. And it's a German thing, which is why they were all over it back then. So where are we now? So bringing all that together, Eleflex are a predominantly petrol diesel. They also make, if you go to the port, you'll find their hoses and nozzles at the port. If you go to the airport, their hoses and nozzles at the airport. And if nobody's noticed, I'm sure you all have, but we are going through a transformation. We're going through a transformation of fueling, of mobility. Many are saying it's the biggest transformation going from horses to vehicles, to the petrol engine. So petrol and diesel is on its way out. They are predominantly petrol and diesel. So they are now going around and they are buying different companies in different industries in every fuel type except battery. So cars are going battery. We know that. But as you have now, you have petrol, you have diesel, you have bunker fuel for ships, you have planes which run on aviation fuel. Well, the whole industry believes that that's all going to change, but it's all going to be different types of fuels for different types of applications. So it looks like the aircraft industry are going SAF, which is sustainable aviation fuel. But that's not 100%. But there are projects in the pipeline, and New Zealand is involved in that for hydrogen. But SAF is probably the likely one. Ships, the runner at the moment is ammonia. Not a lot of people realise you can run big engines on ammonia, but that seems sort of coming to the top. Batteries is cars, we all know that. But then there's this area of heavy-duty transport and long-distance coaches. And batteries are, the battery technology at the moment is not suitable for them. It's too heavy and you don't get the range. You've heard of range anxiety. And there is no known technology yet that can improve the battery. So this is where we think, or a lot of people in the world think hydrogen is going to come and play. And hydrogen can be a fuel, and it can be a fuel to fuel batteries as well. It can charge batteries. So now we're moving on to products that we run at 350 bar and 700 bar. 700 bar is 10,000 psi, 10,000 pounds per square inch. And to put that in context, if you think about your thumbnail, that is 5 tons on your thumbnail. So we're dealing with pretty high pressures there. So hopefully hydrogen will be one of the fuels of the future, and we're moving from compressed natural gas to that. So to sum up, what does it take to grow a globally competitive organisation, which is what was asked? Number one is the right people. That is absolutely number one. Right processes, which I went through, and the right products. So they are the 3 things that I believe have made us or got us to where we are. That's me.
Is that green light on?
Flashing it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Made you walk down here for nothing. Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Larissa. So Trimax Mowing Systems, it's in the name, we do mowing systems. So our purpose, oh gosh, the writing's quite small up there, isn't it? I have to go by memory. To power customer performance in the turf care industry and to redefine what's possible for them in their working day. So an overview of the products, we do rotary mowers and flail mowers or mulchers. They are a tractor implement, so we don't do the power unit. Our mowers attach to people's existing tractors, and these are for commercial use. So you're not going to be buying one of these for your lawn at home unless you have quite a bit of money and a bit of a ranch or estate. Our product innovation comes down to cutting grass, so the cut and spread and everything that happens inside the cutting chamber. A lot of our focus too is around reducing all the daily maintenance out of the machines. So it doesn't probably look like it from the photos, but the machine's getting smarter and smarter. You can operate some of these mowers via app and software these days in terms of adjusting the heights, and a lot of the common maintenance procedures on them don't exist anymore. And our big sales proposition is all around efficiency. So our customers who are using these, they are full-time mowing their application, and they want to know that the machine's reliable and it can do what it's supposed to do day in, day out. So our value selling comes down to ROI and total cost of ownership for the product. So here's just a couple of images. This gives you a bit of a picture of the applications we operate in. So golf course mowers for roughs and semi-rough, municipalities and council. So all the councils around New Zealand, UK, US. I didn't realise this before I started here, but you don't actually think about how much green space is out there in the community that the council has to mow regularly, and contractors as well. So a lot of councils subcontract this out to the likes of Downers or City Care. In that council space as well, you've got roadsides. So every single roadside in New Zealand has to be mown regularly so people see the safety markers. This is Australia. They've got fire safety standards there, so they have to mow roadsides regularly as well. So it's quite a big market to sell machinery into. We also do agriculture and horticulture equipment and turf farms, so not big in New Zealand. New Zealand's quite typical for growing grass seed. In Australia and mostly the US, they buy ready lawn. You can go down to the local Bunnings equivalent and buy that on your weekend. So there's these massive grass farms. We sell mowers into that market. Just for a bit of context, that mower that you see there, that's probably worth about 200,000 New Zealand dollars. It's the biggest one we do. It's 10 metres, but yeah, price point ranges from about 10,000 to 200,000 depending on the mower and the application. Right, so where do we begin? The founder of Trimax, Bob Sivright, he's not actively in a management role in the business anymore, but he's still the first one who turns up to work every day and the last one home. So his background was he trained with General Motors over in Flint, Michigan. When he returned, he invented a flail and sold it to a local mower manufacturer. He ended up buying that business and they got heavily involved in the kiwi fruit industry back in the 80s. There was a lot of farmland back then getting converted into kiwi fruit. It's the kiwi fruit boom. He then slowly started buying up local competitors and got into rotary mowers and parks and ground maintenance, and then they started exporting. So over to Australia. I think that's that photo there in the middle where they're all standing around with stubbies and terrible moustaches. And then up into the UK. The Windsor Castle's a customer of Trimax, has been since back in that era. So I've got the Queen there, that's probably more likely the King now. They spent a lot of time offshore, flying in and out. So it was a lot of time on the road for the people involved in the business back then. I think it took them 3 times to enter the US market. That bottom picture up there is the setup they used to travel around in. So these huge big trucks with sort of almost living quarters on the back and towing just heavy equipment around. But the first 2 decades of the business sort of set up the platform for Trimax. We had sort of satellite offices in the UK, the US and Australia. And I think the biggest learning out of those 2 decades was how important it was to actually be on the ground with service and parts support. It's one thing to sell someone a mower, but if they're using it day in, day out, they need to know that they can get the parts whenever they want it. So the service strategy really became sort of a key focus for the business, really. So our global locations today, we are still based in Tauranga, so we're down on Malemi Street there. We have 3 buildings on Malemi Street now. Up in the UK, we have quite a large factory. Our biggest factory is over in the US. And in Australia, we've got more of a distribution hub. We make the Australian product in New Zealand because it's so close. And we supply to a number of countries now, all over Europe, the Americas, Southeast Asia, Dubai, Japan, South Africa, but those are our main locations around the world. So just some stats here. So I think the size of the American golf course market is about 16,000 golf courses. Most of those are centralised in Florida. I think there's about 1,200 in Florida. The next biggest country for golf is Japan. So over in the US, we are in 1,200. So there's still lots of opportunity there for us. We are over 85% of UK councils have at least one Trimax product. We're actually the industry leader up there, which is we're quite proud of, because our two local closest competitors are UK based, and we are ahead of them, so that's cool. Over 90% of Australian councils own a Trimax. I think there's about 520 local and regional councils in Australia. 25% of our business is annual recurring revenue, so that's selling to councils. So they are buying with taxpayer dollars. Roughly every 5 to 7 years, they're replacing our equipment, and that's a pretty recurring revenue stream that we look after. Over 90% of our sales now are actually export sales are made overseas, 10% in New Zealand these days. And just in case anyone's interested, because I do get a lot of questions on this, how have the US tariffs affected our business? So now that that's sort of settled down a bit, we know that that's costing us about $2 million a year just in tariff fees. 45% of our business is direct to consumer, so we have a mixed sales model in each market. Some markets we sell only through resellers, other markets we sell direct. In most markets it's a mix, and we've won Export of the Year 4 times in the last 2 decades. I'll just speed through these because this sort of talks about what we've focused on over the last 10 years. Really, in taking our product to the world, it was about leveraging what we had. We had a strong product line that was selling close to home. So a lot of our investment has been investing in sales teams and investing in marketing. We have quite a large marketing team. It's about 8% of our staff. They're all based in New Zealand, and we've centralised all of our creative agency. So we have specialists in graphics, web, social. We've got a couple of full-time videographers. So it's really about showcasing what we have out through channels overseas. We have invested heavily in building closer to market, so we have quite massive factories overseas. This is our US one in the photo up here. And the machinery game is sort of a global industry, but people want to know that you have a local base and they can get the parts and support that they need to keep them going. So we've invested heavily in manufacturing facilities, supplier relationships, and staff to work in these facilities making the product. Growing team capability is probably one of the biggest things we've leaned into over the last 10 years. We have gone from perhaps 5% of our staff being located overseas to more than half now. So we roughly have 100 staff here in New Zealand and another 100 overseas in various places. Training all those people and putting the processes in and bringing them along and up to speed on your culture has been a huge feat. It has brought lots of challenges, getting the right leadership in market, training up people that stay. We've underestimated sometimes the amount of work that's been for us. Also, the different cultures and staff overseas has been a real challenge, how they like to do business. There's still learnings in that space all the time. And our hands-on Kiwi approach to business often isn't scalable overseas as well. We've also had to set up manufacturing partnerships overseas with subcontractors. That's really been a challenge with us at sometimes as well with our product quality. We've been let down quite a bit. They've also had us over a barrel at time with different pricing. So that's been a big challenge for our manufacturing team. And we have many times have had to rush staff overseas or air freight things to sort of fill those gaps. So yeah, putting the right policies, much like Kevin said, policies in place and structure to sort of grow big teams overseas. System changes as well along the way as your business is growing, putting in new ERP systems and communication systems. Putting the system in and training people once or twice is sort of just the start of the job. Actually getting people to use them effectively is the largest part. I think We put in a new CRM system roughly about 4 years ago, and I think we lost half of our sales team in the process, which we were expecting, and we were ready for that. But yeah, as it's sort of about who gets on the bus, and you do have a lot of churn through those sort of times. Yeah, we've just tried to adapt and grow as quickly as possible, but yeah, we've definitely underestimated the effort at times in that space. So just in summary, in the last 10 years, so we've had 7 times the amount of sales growth, 4 times the growth of team members, half of our staff are based overseas now, 25% of annual recurring revenue. We've got 3 full-time manufacturing sites and staff based in multiple countries. We also run customer NPSs as well, which is a customer satisfaction survey, so 75% is pretty up there, so that's good. So yeah, that's Trimax. Thanks.
I'm freaking exhausted just listening to that. It's also quite triggering. So, hi everyone, my name's Sam Kidd. I'm the CEO at Lawview. Back in 2015, I had this slightly delusional idea of creating a legal tech company here in Tauranga. I suppose not everyone grows up with the dream of building a legal tech company. That's not something as a kid you really kind of imagine, do you know what, I really want to kind of tackle matter management, but somehow that was my dream. And just obviously keen to kind of share with you today kind of what the journey's been like since 2015. I could talk for a long time on this, so happy to kind of push over to questions pretty soon. But I suppose the main thing is the minute you start, you're global from day one, whether you want to admit that or not. The world is super flat these days, and customers want the best. They actually just don't give a shit that you're local. Like the standards are global right from the get-go, and so that is a standard that you have to kind of hold yourselves to right when you start. And that is also the same with talent. Probably, COVID was, I think, actually a huge unlock for New Zealand. It was obviously a horrible thing for the world to go through. But for New Zealand-based companies, it really flattened the earth. When we were doing global sales back in the early day, we were jumping on to Zoom calls and Teams calls before that was kind of normal. So it was, weird for them that we weren't appearing in their offices and doing that. And they asked a lot about what's going to be like working with a New Zealand-based company like that. They just disappeared almost overnight. And so the minute you start something now, you're global. So what is Lawview? I'm conscious that I don't want to bore you too much of what Lawview is, but we are a legal operations platform. Yeah. Super sexy. I know that's what you're thinking. So we look after the entire workflow for corporate legal teams. So we look after the lawyers that sit inside large organizations. So everything from your LinkedIn to your Spotify to your, who was another really good logo we got, Arsenal Football Club. The fact that they came on board and started winning is just pure coincidence, or is it? And so it's the entire workflow, so how they store contracts, how they communicate with each other, how the business sends instructions through. Like, weirdly, this was a space that there was no technology, so we were just going in and working with corporate legal teams that were using Outlook, were using spreadsheets, probably the old kind of post-it note. Again, COVID was a bit of an unlock for us because these teams just worked highly inefficiently, but you're dealing with lawyers who are A-type personalities and just believe that they can just work harder to get shit done.
Usually true.
Yeah. Super inefficient and expensive. And so you put a system in place that actually streamlines that process, and COVID kind of helped because it actually, I suppose, highlighted the fact that they didn't have systems. And so when everyone was geographically dispersed, even inside their own cities and countries, it highlighted the fact that they needed a platform. And so that's when we kind of rolled in and looked at how do we actually help these organizations move a lot faster. So I kind of spoke about this at the very start. This is kind of the elephant in the room when you start a software company is regardless of where you are, regardless of when you start, you are global from day one. I probably can't say that enough because I do hear a lot of companies when they're kind of in New Zealand, they think let's just start local and look at New Zealand as a pilot. The customers that you're selling to or that you're talking to, they have the option to go online and browse around and find competitors that are overseas, and competitors are looking to come more into New Zealand as well. So that becomes a very big issue if you're not attuned to that right from the get-go. So where did we start? That photo of me is actually 2 years into the journey. Look how fresh-faced and happy and unaware I am of what I'm stepping into. With my co-founder, Tim Boyne, my hair was a lot darker. Actually, it didn't look so bad, but now you actually see it blowing up and a lot more of it. And on the right-hand side was our first office. So we had a small office on Devonport Road above the sushi shop. The reason I say that is it was a little bit triggering for me because we nearly lost our first deal back in the day when they started sending around Google images of this company they're about to sign for, and all they could see was the sushi shop on Devonport Road. Yeah. And then that was our first business plan that we touted around to every VC and angel group through New Zealand. I was listening to the talk that was earlier today about just being constantly rejected by VCs. I can confirm that is true. We went through that entire process, even got rejected by our own enterprise angels here, by Icehouse, by Movac, by everyone who's actually now on board. And so... Pardon? They wait, or the fact that I think back when we started, they didn't believe our ambition. And I think that has changed hugely inside New Zealand at the moment. Like we were going there saying we want to be $1 billion company, and everyone's like, "Let's calm down a little bit. If you can get to 40 million, that would be a good exit." And we were really setting ourselves out to be a global company. We're competing with global organizations that have huge targets and goals for themselves. And it's like, well, why can't we? So it was kind of like, in some ways, giving ourselves permission to dream big. So that business plan, it was bound, superficial. That still didn't work, so that got rejected. So fast forward to today. This was me on the left, actually, a couple of weeks ago, kicking off our go-to-market. So that's all our sales, global sales, implementation, CS teams, partnerships in Hawaii. So there's worse places to kind of do your go-to-market kickoff. So about 70 people over there that we flew in. And then on the right was our engineering, product, and operations offsite that we did in the quarters. There's a little bit of contention at the moment between the fact that they got Auckland and go-to-market got Hawaii. We're working through that. That will lead on to my next piece around communications inside an organization. And then you see kind of probably over-indexed on the sign. So for those of you that haven't seen, that is definitely not above sushi shop. Well, technically it is if you go across to the left-hand side, but yeah, we're down on Wall Street. So some stats for the company. We're 160 staff now across 16 countries. At the end of last year, we completed our first acquisition of a company called Clausebase out of Belgium that we acquired for 27 million. And we did raise a bit of capital during that process. So our last company valuation was about 400 million mark, so a little bit higher than the 40 that they're hoping that we could get to. So in all, kind of through our journey, kind of raised probably about 60 million Kiwi over the last sort of 10 to 11 years. Every raise is still fucking painful. I don't know why that is. You sort of think you kind of get through a stage that once you raise capital, it's going to get easier and easier. I can confirm it doesn't. So it's still a journey. So one thing, you look at the stats, look at the numbers, and it all looks super easy. I know from LinkedIn, those of you that follow me, I get to see that I lead the life of being overseas and going to all these kind of wonderful places. But what you don't see behind, which I don't post, is just how freaking tiring and painful that can be at times. And same with raising capital. It's not an easy process. So I take my hat off to everyone that goes through that. So, I don't know why talking out loud just makes me, I talk all the time, but sometimes it sucks all the moisture from my body. So these are just some of the points as to what I think makes a globally competitive organization. at the start, it's really that clarity of mission, in some ways for yourself, but also for your team. If you're to unite on an audacious project, you have to have clarity around what you're doing. This in some ways kind of leads into my product depth over hype. Probably more now than ever, probably than when we started, is there's just so much hype in the market around AI. There's so many things that you could build in the next 3 minutes, and by the time I finish this talk, another AI legal tech company has probably just gone to market. But if you can build something that quick, then so can your competitors, and you probably don't have any value. So I'd really advise people to kind of avoid that trap of really kind of stepping into something that you feel doesn't have enough depth there for your customers. And so you're really trying to understand that pain point. And that really comes down to that customer engagement piece. So in the early days, when you're trying to go global and you're having like awkwardly confident sales calls, when you're on talking about how you're the best product out there and that you really understand them, you got to spend a huge amount of time really trying to understand who your customer is and what it is that they're trying to achieve. And that's in some ways the secret sauce that you have as a founder, is you care deeply about the product or the area that you're kind of going into, and you need to understand your customers. You need to know how do you make them look like champions, and when you have that, you can feed that into your product strategy, and that will create more product depth. I think for us in the early days, we were about 3.5 years building product with little to no customers. It is a lonely and expensive place to be for 3.5 years. I'm always amazed at how long it actually takes to build a product with any real kind of substance. I think the bar is just lifted each and every year. Like I did this sort of gig before, building a company, and we got out the door, which I would have thought was relatively quickly, but we also didn't have iPhone apps. We didn't have to build an iPad app. We didn't have to integrate into Salesforce. So that bar is just lifted the whole time. So I think that one of the things that goes with that product depth is also patience, which I know as founders we don't always have. So the biggest challenges when you're trying to go global is competing with super large incumbents in the space, or for us, well-funded players overseas. So every time we were going into market, there was some other US-funded company coming out with a $300 million raise with vaporware. That's hard not to be jealous of that kind of approach. It's been, this sounds lousy, nice to see some of them smash into the wall. Because like I think I felt like we were pretty mindful with how we're kind of operating with capital. The US and that they like go large or go home, and so that can really work to their advantage at times, but also to the disadvantage where they get sloppy with their approach. And so when you're competing against large, well-funded global players, again, you have to spend a huge amount of time really understanding the pain point that you're trying to solve, and also that you're trying to build international brand credibility when you have zero credibility, obviously not as an individual, but as a company. So how do you build that credibility? And in the end, a lot of it is spending time with people, like the logos that I kind of mentioned at the start. When you first get into dealing with massive organizations, I remember I was going to I was at a conference in Vegas, as you do, and we had a dinner set up for a whole bunch of clients, and I'd been trying to meet with one of our key stakeholders inside Lime. He would never meet with me, always turned down kind of calls, and so we finally nabbed him for this dinner, and he got sitting opposite him. And he was like, oh my God, I was so nervous about meeting the CEO. And I was like, oh fuck, I'm so nervous about meeting the guy from Lime. So you forget about the fact that these organizations, there's just the personalities inside them that they're kind of worried about meeting the CEO, because in the US, CEO means something. I think when we're from New Zealand, we're quite flat as organizations. Like you quite happily sit next to everyone and chat away. You don't have that, so understanding that what that culture gap was like, and that kind of led into how you actually build brand equity with your customers, and also understanding that you're selling to people. Like, people buy from people. Even if you're selling to a LinkedIn or a Lime or a Spotify, you're still dealing with individuals. And so it's actually spending a lot of time in market as well. So I'm a very good Air New Zealand customer. I spend a lot of time overseas. I actually logged my flights for the first time last year, just out of curiosity. Spent 300 hours flying. It is why I'm glad I'm not 6'4". Always wanted to be taller. Turns out that's an advantage when you're traveling. Being 4 foot nothing really helps. The other thing is scaling culture. When I look at this across our team, to be honest, it's probably one of the biggest fears that I had. Like, again, when you're out there as a small crew, you're meeting individuals, they like working with you and the team, and like, how does that scale through 160 people? So you have to be incredibly intentional around building culture playbooks, looking at how you onboard people. There's a whole lot of stuff that feels super naff and weird when you're small. Listening to you talk about 200 people and having half your company overseas, like, it's a really hard thing to do, and that leads into the communication piece. We do internal EMPS. The thing that always comes back, that people always give out about, is communication. And you think you're communicating, and then you get the fact that I think we over-communicate. And so I know those of you that are on Slack or Teams, just every channel lit up, and so it's like you're communicating, but it's actually less is more, and so it's learning how to kind of go through that process. I'd love to say we have that nailed, but we are certainly in a learning journey there as well. But that is kind of one of the biggest things around scaling your culture and just communicating with the organization as a whole. So takeaways, keen to kind of obviously get questions from yourselves and hear what's on top of mind for you. But as I said, you compete globally from day one. Protect and do everything to elevate your culture is just so important. Obsess over your customers. Like, understand how they win. I think that was a big thing for us, is actually looking at understanding how they win. How do they get comped? And like, we even have on our kind of the strategy on the page, make our customers fucking heroes, because if we can make them a hero, they will bring us everywhere and they'll feed us and across the organization. And you also need that champion in there who is touting for you, especially in the early days when you have no reference clients. I think that was always one of the catch-22s when you're trying to sell to enterprise. Everyone wants a reference client, and it's that chicken and egg. Well, you will be my reference client when you sign up. So bring you on the journey and come along for that. So that's where you have to get out there and meet people. Again, build depth in product. Don't chase that hype. Obviously, just super relevant in the world of AI, and play the long game. We, as I said, we're 3 and a bit years kind of building product with very few customers. It takes a long time. Like, I feel like we're only just at the start. We're coming up to our 11th year. Every company that I've kind of done this before, again, it took about 4 years to kind of get to that million in revenue. Like, it does take a long time to actually kind of build a company, and so you have to do it and surround yourself with people that you really want to be with. You've got to build an epic team. I kind of stayed away from some of the team stuff, which is probably why I should have had notes. The team is everything. The people that you surround yourself on a day-to-day basis is just so hugely important. That's how you win. So, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is no shortcut. We always had VCs asking kind of what's that silver bullet, what's going to allow us to suddenly accelerate. Like, globally competitive organizations, are built through uncomfortable conversations, decisions, and just relentless standards. I think it's that standards piece that really separates companies. And what I sort of say to people is, like, if you want to go global, you just got to ask yourself, what standard do you want to operate? Like, you don't need permission to start. You don't need to be well funded. You don't even need to have your product ready, but you do have to make that decision that this is the way you want to operate. And if you look inside probably every large globally competitive organization out there, there's a small group of people that just believe they can, and that's or like to think that we built here at Lawview. You don't need to be in Silicon Valley to build something world-class, but you do need world-class standards. Thank you. Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to have a therapy session and go through all my pain and share that with you if you want as well.
That's an invitation we'll all be taking up. I actually just had one quick question for you, Sam, before I open it to the floor. 3.5 years above the sushi shop, what was your turning point? Was there like a moment or a client or a customer that walked through the door, or a staff member or someone that changed it all for you?
Telstra.
Telstra?
Yeah.
Australia, Telstra?
Australian Telstra, yeah. So we were trying to sell to legal teams between 3 and 5. We'd had a few local city councils. We'd gone to a number of shows, and we ended up getting friendly with the head of operations there and head of legal operations. And so that was where we really built up the rapport. They were going and entering into an RFP. The nice thing is that Denise had come out of Westpac, had put systems in that required a huge amount of engineers to move in, and she just didn't want to go down that route. And we were a true SaaS platform. Turn up, we're simple, you turn us on, and you're away. Well, that's what we thought. We also didn't realize there was a huge steering committee and all that sort of stuff, and like they're a legal team of 250. We might have said on the RFP we were ISO certified. So Sarah in the front there had to develop our ISO certification policy and write that book
real quick.
Pretty lively.
Yeah.
And to kind of go through that. But again, that was just that relationship. The sales cycle was so painful, but that was, I suppose, a moment that we could kind of point to, look, someone wants this, we needed them to be in, and they became our reference clients. That was in about 2018 that they sort of became our client. And then with their logo, we were kind of, even though you weren't allowed to talk about Telstra, we spoke about them to everybody that we met. And that enabled us to kind of get into the US. We got our first US client, again, through attending a whole lot of events and just got friendly with a few folks there and got our first US client at the back of 2018.
Fantastic. Didn't start small.
No, yeah.
All right. Who else has got questions? Yes.
Hey, Larissa, you spoke a little bit about culture in terms of the maybe challenges balancing Trimax culture with local management style. But Sam, you also talked about culture and the kind of scaling culture intentionally. And Kevin, you also, like when you first came to the workshop, kind of, I was just wondering if we could dig a little bit deeper in terms of what you guys have learned about kind of culture and the way it intersects with this idea of growing a competitive organisation, especially in the kind of, maybe in the overseas exporting kind of setting.
So, just for 1 sec. We're recording this and they can't hear you, they can only hear me. So I'm just going to repeat, but maybe summarise your question. It's about culture and how you change your culture for when you are going global. Is that about right? Yeah.
I think if you set a good vision, mission and values, you try and guide the overseas teams by that. I think you've got to let some of the small things go in the middle of that. Us Kiwis and how we do business, when we compare it to the US, I can give you a few examples. The CEO is generally out of reach in those sort of companies, right? They also, I feel, like to work quite contained, whereas we will go cross departments to help out other departments. They also have a bit of a fair culture as well, so when you're asking for honest updates on how things are going, they perhaps won't be so forthcoming, because you can fire people at will in some of the states over there. So it has, sometimes we haven't been able to get the truth of the real business situations overseas, not because they're intentionally being deceitful, but that's a cultural thing that we've found a bit of a challenge. In the UK as well, different sort of cultures in terms of, I don't know if it's a bit of a hierarchy thing in businesses, but they won't work cross-functionally as well. Also, I believe they don't take risks, so when we set certain sales strategies, getting the UK team to actually go out and do them has been a real challenge. We've had to go over and pretty much do it with them and lead them through watching us do it. So yeah, it's different market by market. I think when you've got a CEO in the business as well, or a family-owned business, like those leaders in the business are incredibly important and setting those standards. And I think the New Zealand team gets to feed off it quite a bit because we're around it a lot. Those leaders and the exec team as well, we just try and get out overseas as much as possible. And then finding the right type of leaders overseas as well. I mean, me personally, I've tried to employ people in leadership positions overseas who don't come from our industry and sometimes even don't even come from that country. Like we've got a European head lead over in the US who's been there for 10 years, so it's a good mix. It's difficult per country and everyone's different, so it definitely, has been quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think the big one is getting over into market. So I spend a lot of time meeting clients, but exactly said, actually spending time with the team because you're trying to impart the Kiwi way of working. Like you don't want everyone to kind of be the same, but you kind of want this operational or this process to be familiar. Like I want our customers to have that law view experience. We did take one of our team who was based in Auckland and shipped her off to the UK. She did want to go. I'm just saying that. And so she was kind of like our ambassador of culture as well. So she helped stand up the team. The UK was actually really hard for us because there's just very little crossover. And I think the big things that you need to watch for is, like, we operate in all English-speaking countries, but you're right, like the culture differences in each organization, in each country can be quite stark, and so you actually need to be intentional about it. And so same with when we create our, like, celebrating our values and talking through our values and making that kind of normal around. We talk about how we back each other, how we dig deeper, how we inspire and delight. So those are all the values that we try to live by. We bring them through into our all hands presentations. People celebrate them, but we hire and fire off those values as well. And then realizing that the culture will evolve. So the culture, when we're 30 people to 100 to 160, there's a natural evolution as well. And so everyone inside the organization becomes custodians of that culture. So the culture evolves, and like we're actually looking to do anything now where we just go back and relook at it, because we don't want it to be words on a page. Like, it has to be how we actually live and breathe and kind of operate. And if we see that isn't happening, then that's something that we need to address. And also, individual people can be both awesome and super fucking toxic. And so you have some people that are high performers, and you have to make those painful calls at times that they're going to bring down the rest of the people. And so those conversations that are, I think, harder. It's certainly easy in the US to do that. I think New Zealand, it's tricky, but if you want to be competitive globally, you need to look at the people that you surround yourself. A players love playing with A players. But if you start tolerating bad behavior inside the organization, that just goes through it like wildfire. Yeah.
Kevin, did you have anything to add?
Maybe slightly different way. But when I started at Oasis, we didn't have culture, we didn't have vision, we didn't have values. We had nothing that you have now.
We had cigarettes at morning tea as well.
Yeah. We still smoked back then. Smoke up. And one thing I noticed, I joined a company where it was normal for people to leave, and we're always taking people on. People were always leaving, and it was just normal. And I felt there's something not quite right about that, and there's something called the best places to work in New Zealand, and this is going back 15, 16 years now. So I thought let's do that. It's a bit of a survey. We'll see what we get back. We'll take that, and we'll see where it takes us. We set up a committee, and we got the feedback. The biggest feedback was information and communication. That was the number one thing. So the first thing we set up was every Monday at 9 a.m. There was only 10 of us, so we got together in the smoko room. And I had the first set of KPIs, and every Monday fed back, and that was it. We still do that today, 19 years later. But we do it at 2 p.m, and we do it at 2 p.m. because we've got a night shift. So it was important for me to bring the night shift in with the day shift and have everybody together. And we have a guy over in Aussie for us, and he joins us online with Teams. COVID's done an amazing job to help us with communication that way. But the story about the best places to work, what we did was we got members from different departments, which is pretty much half the company, and we improved things. What is culture? The one that stuck with me the most is culture is what you do all the time. So we still do this meeting that was at 9 a.m. now is at 2 p.m. We still do that. And we took a lot of different things from the team, and as we've grown, we've kept doing this. And we've made that our culture. And we've, to the point, sometimes you got to get nasty. Sometimes I've had to force things through. Sometimes when we did the lean manufacturing journey, one guy was really anti it, so he had to go. And one of my job was to force him out, which I don't want to do, but we needed the lawyers and we got him out. So you've got to have the culture, you've got to know what it is, you set your values and all that type of stuff, but then you've got to live it, you've got to breathe it, you've got to drive it, and you've got to want it. And then a few years later, we won New Zealand Best Places to Work, Most Improved Company, small company. So for me, it worked, and we still do that today. And we're actually going to do that survey. We haven't done it for a few years, but we're actually going to do it again this year and go through that process again. So hopefully that answers your question.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Larissa, you talked about the fact that you're very dominant in the UK and the competitors in that market are local.
Yep.
What do you think are the biggest things that allow you to be that competitive when you've got other brands or other competition that are local in that market?
Our products.
So the question was, in the UK, what allows you to be so competitive and dominant in that market? I was actually thinking the same thing because I'm like the Queen. Like, surely Buckingham Palace have got some sort of like deal. They only deal with UK people. How did you get in? How do you do this?
A lot of our product is made in market these days, so the UK product is stamped made in UK,
Oh, okay.
just so you know. Our product is the most expensive as well. Like, we're premium price. Sometimes they're paying an extra 10, 20 grand for our product. Their product kind of looks exactly the same on surface level, it's just a different colour. But our product lasts a lot longer and it's a lot more reliable. I think once we win a customer, we keep them. We don't lose customers. And often in a sales deal with a new customer, they'll go the cheapest way. You see that quite a bit, but normally they're calling us a year or so later, and that's going to the scrap heap, and we get in. So reliability, the service support, we just do it much better than they do. But we have big teams. We've invested in big teams to support all that. But yeah, that's how you keep customers and win them. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I technically have two. One's kind of piggybacking off the first one, but the kind of to specific people. It doesn't have to be, but I might make it easier. The first one's more to Sam and Marissa and kind of piggybacking off the first question, but Sam, you mentioned global a lot, and obviously Larissa, your company is over 80% of the global market. And you talked about from the beginning, you're always focusing on that global client. But when you're really looking at a niche, how do you kind of tailor and grow your organisation when you're looking at such a big market and such different cultures and such big niches?
Okay, so the question is, how do you tailor your product and your company and your offering across all these different global markets?
I'd love to say that we did this in a really laser-focused way, but I would have sold to my mum if she would have bought in the early days. So in some ways...
Ruthlessness.
Yeah. You're driven by demand, and so you try not to be spray and pray, but there's an element of that. Like, obviously, you have a limited budget at the start, so we knew that we wanted to focus on the US. We end up obviously winning Telstra in Australia. I knew a lot of New Zealand companies that kind of thought that they could just hop across the ditch to Australia and just die a death doing that. So I was like, let's just bypass Australia and go straight to the US. But we picked a couple of events that we could afford to go to. And so that was kind of what set our path forward, is actually, okay, we picked up a couple of clients in Australia. And so then we just doubled down on where we had traction because we needed those reference clients. And so we turned all our focus from US to Australia because it's all we could afford to do. Once we had those reference clients, we then looked at how we then target certain areas of the US. Again, we thought, okay, time zone wise, let's pick the West Coast. But of course, our first US client was fucking New York, which is the worst time zone to have to kind of play with. But again, we just had to go with where the customer demand was. Now we're probably more prescriptive. Like this year, part of our strategy is we're targeting Germany, so we started to get clients there again. So it's leading us in there in UAE, which we actually put a partner in this year. So kind of ran a partner program over the last year, has started to build up traction. So now we've got capital behind us. We can kind of take I suppose what you'd consider a proper business approach to it. But in the early days, it's just whoever will buy, and it's like necessity that kind of ended up kind of ruling where and how we kind of went to market. But it was always building a product that we knew would be global, so we weren't falling in the trap of making sure that it was a New Zealand-centric product. All our messaging, we didn't even put anywhere on the website that we're in New Zealand, because we didn't want that to kind of be a limiting factor.
Yeah.
For us, because we're a physical product, it's really hard. Yeah. So we're one umbrella brand. We sell into all these different applications. How do we make ourselves look like the specialist in golf course mowers when they know we do all these other things, you know? We employ salespeople that have like a cross-industry expertise. So our golf salesmen are ex-greenkeepers. Our turf salesmen are ex-turf farmers, that sort of thing. So first of all, they know the industry, they know the relationships. We advertise in the right channels. Our product's also modular, so it's actually the same base product, but if we sell it into one industry, it's got different attachments on it versus another. So we spec it to application, but it's definitely a challenge for the marketing team learning all the different variants, all the different terminologies, all the different languages, not only across industry, but across country too, like is it a spanner or is it a wrench? Yeah. All of that sort of thing, American spelling. We do employ specialist marketing people in each market too, and we listen to what those sales reps and marketing people tell us back here. If they think the product needs to be changed to fit XYZ, we do that. Yeah. And we try and specialise the products as much as possible to the customers. Yep.
Great. Did you have a second question?
Yeah, for Kevin. You talked a lot about, well, you mentioned how at the start it started from like a soda bottle and now you guys are in the fuel industry. You've been there for almost 2 decades now, so from the start. But when you were growing, what kind of processes and prioritizations did you choose to fixate from? Because I imagine you probably had so many different avenues you could have gone down, but how did you really decide to pick your niche and grow in that niche and really stick to it?
Okay, so the question is that how did you choose your niche as you were growing? You've probably had a few. Yeah.
Is that in terms of the product, which markets to enter, or?
Yeah, either or. Which product that you would choose?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I joined the company, we had a ball valve, a jet valve, and a nozzle. We got now 600 different products. And back in those days, we had one customer in Thailand. We had lots of different customers. We sold to Korea, we sold to Thailand, we sold to America, we sold to all these different places. But I went on the road and went round, and I found it was all going into Thailand. The government there was doing a 10-year plan. So I realized we needed to look elsewhere. So I just jumped on a plane and, like Sam, just spent a lot of time going around deciding where I thought the market should be. Ended up in America. And went to the shows and developed relationships. And as Sam said, you get your, I don't know if you call it your lucky break or your first customer or what happens. There's a book called It's Not Just Luck, but we managed to get specified on this one product, which is the benchmark product for pretty much most of the world. And then after that, people just knocked on our doors. Yeah. The model's slightly different now, so our main market's America, and we're in alternative fuels, and Trump has stuffed us, frankly. Not because of the tariffs, just because of his belief that there's no problem with fossil fuels. So we're doing a little bit different strategy, and I'm a very lazy person. So we're using NZTE, New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. They've got people all around the world. So they do a lot of the research for us. And we've been doing that for a few years. And then we try and find local representation in the market, because in China you're not going to get anywhere unless you with somebody, you're dealing with somebody who's Chinese, obviously in that market. And yeah, we just align ourselves with somebody and pick our target market and go for it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just gotta try.
Great. Have we got any other questions? Yeah.
Well, this is probably a little bit off the wall, but if each of you were to imagine that your market overnight is an apple, there is no raw fish, there is no grass, there is no fuel, or what would your business pivot to, and what core capabilities would you leverage to pivot?
Okay, it is off the wall. But the question is, if your industry that you operate in expires and disappears tomorrow, where would you pivot to? What would you do? You would invent something, wouldn't you?
Sorry?
You would invent something.
It's quite an easy one for us because pretty much that's happened. So under the Biden administration, there was the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, which is $1.2 trillion over 10 years, and a lot of that was going into alternative fuels. When Trump came in, he abolished that and brought in the OBBBA, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So in 2 years, our business doubled. In 1 year, our business halved. So we were recruiting, going crazy, and then we suddenly had to pivot. So what we did was we are recruiting our first ever global business development manager. So somebody's proactively going out there. The last time we did that was me 15 years ago. Since then, business has just come in. We went back. Remember the jobbing work? We are doing jobbing work again. Yeah. So we went back out and we started bringing jobbing work back in. And new product development. We've gone hard on new product development and hydrogen products. So, that's what we've had to do in the last year. And I honestly think in 5 years, 6 years' time, I'll look back and I'll say Trump did us a big favour because now we've diversified and we're in a lot different areas.
That's such a hard question. It's hard because Trimax as a business and the trust that owns the company also owns similar related companies and autonomy and that sort of thing. So it would probably be just more of a shift. A lot of our products are getting more digital. So to be honest, I don't know if anyone probably wouldn't have noticed, but our logo's actually recently removed the mowing systems from it so that it can open us up to get into related sort of industries, probably in diagnostics, software, maintenance, monitoring, and where that takes us, I don't know. But no completely new shifts that I can think of.
Yeah, I don't know where I could go with this. Tax view. I'll pick something just equally exciting. Tax accountants. That would be a pivot. Obviously, appreciate the question slightly off the wall. I think the big thing for us is we're always looking, how do we put ourselves out of business? I think that's the thing, as you're kind of growing the whole time, you just don't want to get comfortable. I talk about this a lot at all hands, just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. As you're scaling as an organization, you always hit those points, you think, I got my shit together, and then you kind of go through that next phase, and every process and everything you've put in place falls over. And I think that's also saying with the product, like had this beautiful kind of plan, and then the AI kind of reared its head and you change things. Like, I'm always fascinated that our clients are like, can we see a 5-year roadmap? I'm like we're lucky to see 6 months in front of us. Like, we kind of have a 12-month roadmap loosely, and then you kind of work in 6-month tranches. And so always looking at, like, how do you put yourself out of business? What happens if someone comes up, like all the new AI companies, do they just approach this problem area in a completely different way? And so I think that's a question you should be asking yourself the whole time. If I had to pivot to something completely different, I don't know, like software is a hard game now. Maybe I'd get into, I don't know, sun cream or something. It feels like that's not getting any relaxing out there.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess question for all three of you. We live in an increasingly PC world where we rely so much on what people say about us. So when you're expanding so quickly, like how do you prioritise your time to ensure that you're protecting existing relationships but also looking for more business? Because obviously people always want to deal with people they've always dealt with.
Okay, so the question is, how do you prioritise your time between existing clients and new clients?
That kind of goes back to that culture piece at the start, that you get people that operate in a similar fashion. Like we've got a lot of sales, probably 8 sales folks. I don't have a cookie cutter approach for them. So you can't just have, this is the script. So everyone needs to bring their own personality. Like if you looked at our sales team, it fascinates me, even when we were in Hawaii last week talking with my VP of sales, like every one of our sales team is so different, but it works. And so I think as long as you're authentic and you bring your, I'm going to say we bring your true self, but always like you can hold back a little bit at times in a work situation. But if individuals are authentic and turn up, and that's what I talked about before, people like buying from people. So you don't want to be robotic, and I think that's probably a gift that we all have as Kiwis. Like we get away with saying shit overseas that you wouldn't get away with. Like I'm always amazed when you're at events, the things that I can say when you're kind of talking, and that US staff would be like, oh man, I would never say that, but we're funny and cute and from the land of hobbits, and that helps build rapport with customers and potential customers. So people like dealing with us, but then you find people and you bring people onto your organization that have a similar way of kind of operating, be it with a US culture or UK culture, but there's just something that, again, for us, that kind of law viewfied. Sounds like a cult, but it's not. Even though we all wear the same t-shirts. Does that sort of answer your question in a non-answery sort of way? I spend a lot of time with lawyers. I just managed to get myself around without actually answering anything. Yeah.
Very uncommittal. Well done.
Yeah. I think for us, a few years ago, we had sales guys that were trying to do everything. They were also the guys that got called if there was a machine breakdown. And we segmented the roles. So we actually have specialists for each stage of the customer journey. We've got people that are full-time taking leads on social media, and they're ex-mechanics and they can sell. We've got people who are out demoing and commissioning. We've got different people that step in after the sale and do the customer service side of it, and they all do their job really well. So we just split up the customer journey. And when everyone gets busy, we just employ more people in specific roles. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good question, because I'm getting to the age now where a lot of old contacts now are retiring and moving on. And you used to be able to pick up the phone to the CEO of a company in America and ask about family and chat, and now I can't do that. So I'm starting to recognise that. But back in the day, and we still have this culture, what we do all the time now, was because we're a small organisation, I realised I couldn't deal with everybody. There wasn't enough hours in the day. So I started to involve the engineers, and you've all heard of B2B, business to business, and B2C, business to customer. So we came up with this E2E, engineer to engineer. So what I'd do quite early on, a lot of our stuff is engineering and we have to design stuff, was get an engineer involved. And we've got 7 engineers, so I just became a bit of a conduit. And now what I've found is I've dropped off and the engineers have got the relationships, but they've got the relationships as a team. So we lose an engineer, it almost heals itself. It's not reliant on one person. And that wasn't deliberate. That's sort of just how it's evolved. But it's worked out really well now that, as I'm nearing retiring age, the engineers are now and the sales guys as a group are now developing the company, and it doesn't rely just on me anymore.
Yeah, I think one of the common threads I see through all of your answers is great product, great people, great service. Like, it seems to be kind of underpinning everything that you've said today in all your different industries, which I think is, it's amazing.
With a capital P on the people. It's all about the team.
Yeah, exactly. Have we got any other questions? Yeah. Okay, well, I'll just summarise that one. The question is around how do you deal with intellectual property, your intellectual property, as in the trademarks and patents in this world that we're in, and was it specifically around the law in each jurisdiction, or just how you protect your intellectual property?
And so what emphasis you place on that
Yeah.
in regards to your competitors?
Yeah, and so how you protect your assets.
Yeah, so up until we were bought by Eliflex, we're a very small company, and I had a view which I think was unique. I think I'm the only one that had this view that if you get IP, it costs a lot of money to get a patent, to get it sorted, to get it done, etc., etc. And if somebody's actually going to take you to court, it's going to cost an absolute fortune to defend it. So what's the point? And that was my view. Whether rightly or wrongly, that was my view. So we did a few patent pendings to fix things in the early days, but my background's product development, so I was like, let's double down on the new products. So we have people, our products are copied all the time, but we've already moved on to the next one. So so that's how we did it, and we just made our products better, last longer, whatever it needed to be. And just say, yep, plagiarism, best form of flattery. Let's move on, and let's move on to the next one. Yeah. Then we joined the Eliflex group, big group. They've got lawyers. They sort it all out, man.
Nice.
So my role's more on the trademark sort of side of it, not so much IP. That's our engineering manager and his team. We do take out patents on some of our designs. It's few and far between. It's normally the ones that we know are quite unique. We have had infringements on those over the years, and normally it comes down to who's got more money. Someone always backs out pretty early in them. On the logo branding sort of word mark side, it's too expensive to protect everything, so we protect the main names. In the 10 years I've been there, we've never really had any issues, luckily. Yeah, that's probably all I can add to that. But
yeah, we're the same. Like we don't really believe we hold any significant IP that's worth kind of protecting. There's obviously a lot there, but to your point, we'd rather just focus on building it. We do protect our brand a lot, so like we'll write into Google, complain of people using our brand name in their ads, like, you know, better than Lawview, then we'll write in and get them to stop that. So we kind of protect our brand quite heavily on those things. But yeah, other than that, it's just be better. I think is the way that you kind of protect yourself, is just turn up and show up better.
Yeah.
I've actually got a little bit of an interesting example. So our biggest infringements, I suppose, is copycat part suppliers, making our blades and that out of China, selling them online on eBay and through their own business names. We have all our brands protected on things like eBay and Amazon, and our brands registered, but it's quite hard to enforce it. So it's a bit of a project that we started up last year. We actually started a new company and make our own imitation blades under a brand new name that no one knows as us. And we're taking that market as well, because those two markets exist. So we might as well have them both. And we price position them quite smartly. And yeah, that seems to be working out pretty good.
I think that's a great approach. That's a fantastic approach, because you're right, you can get anything on AliExpress these days, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
And you go to the trade shows, and whatever this company is set up right beside you. They've got the book, they've got the John Deere parts, the Kubota parts, the Trimax parts, sort of not called that blatantly.
No.
But I remember when I was new having a chat to them and saying, you know, because I know they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But they don't care.
No, they don't.
They can't really be stopped, so what else do you do about it?
I think that's coming back to your point about having relationships in China. If you don't have a good relationship in Asia, if you're getting things made there or you're doing business there, you're a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah. Anything else from the room? If not, then that's actually probably pretty good timing, because I think we're about to